Welcome back to the show. Now, one of the biggest struggles that I hear from people is how to get started with marketing their business. And, especially in those early stages when they just don't have any help or a team to outsource to. So that means they're doing everything all alone. But also, if you don't have a marketing background yourself, then how are you supposed to know what to do? So, to help with those questions and all those struggles, I've got a guest with me today who is going to offer some support on this. Sarah Noel Block is the founder of Tiny Marketing, where she helps small businesses and entrepreneurs to increase their know, like, trust factor by batch creating 1 month of their content marketing and social media posts and email marketing all in 1 week. So she's got a really cool system that she has developed and she uses herself in her own business, in fact. And in this conversation, she walks me through exactly how she gets it all done. We also talk about the most beneficial marketing activities when you're right at the beginning of building your business and what you should be focusing on and also what you shouldn't be focusing on, and really how to get traction so that you can eventually get to the stage where you can outsource some things and then keep growing from there. I think you're going to really find some useful tips and strategies in this episode, so let's get right into it. Well, hey Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's gonna be a fun chat.
It sure is. Yeah, I'm super excited to really take a deep dive into marketing with you because, obviously this is a huge topic
Yes.
of concern with my audience. And, most people, I think, like health coaches, wellness coaches, they, of course, realize that they need to market if they are going to get clients and grow their income and do all those things. But many people, I find, lots of people don't particularly like marketing activities, or they find it kind of overwhelming, or they're just not even really sure what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's especially, of course, if you don't have a team, if you're early on stage and it's just you doing it, you're kind of having to figure it all out by yourself. So, I'm really excited to talk to you about all of these things and have this conversation. But before we get into everything, I would love for you to just give our audience a bit more context and just tell us about you and the work that you are doing.
Yeah. So I'm Sarah Noel Block, and I have a show, podcast, and YouTube channel also called Tiny Marketing, where I talk about how to market with a tiny team. I spent my marketing career working as either a one person marketing department or a very small marketing department. And now I work with small teams to help them scale up their content marketing. So I'm excited to talk to your audience and give them some of my little tips of the trade that I've learned along the way. It's not their zone of genius. It's not where they are spending their time. So, but there is an easy way to be able to do it, even if that's not your thing.
Oh, that's exciting to hear about. I'm sure that people are going to be excited to hear about that. So, yeah, let's just dive on in. I want to start by talking about an element of marketing that I think it's from my understanding, it's central to the work that you do, Sarah, and it's the concept of core content, right? So,
Yes.
I would love for you to tell us what core content is.
Yes. So, core content is that one thing that you can commit to doing every month, even every quarter. And you use that core piece of content to feed everything else. So, you're doing something else. You're not doing marketing. You're a nutritionist. You're a wellness coach. You don't have time to create a lot of things, but maybe you have time to spend an hour interviewing an expert in your field that could help your audience and drive value for your audience. And that 1 hour can be repurposed into so many other things. You can break it up into clips for YouTube. You can break it into audiograms. It could be all of your social media for the month, your emails. But that core piece of content, that 1 hour you spend, can feed everything else.
I love that. That absolutely sounds doable, right? Like 1 hour
Yeah.
a month, and that's your core piece. And from there, you can kind of like spin it out.
Yeah. You repurpose it, chop it up, and distribute it in different ways. Make it different formats. So you're attracting, the people who prefer podcasts. You're attracting people who prefer video or writing. but you're using that core content to feed it all.
Yeah, that's great. And I like that idea of then sort of hitting different media options, right? So
Hmm.
because you're right, like not everybody who you're trying to reach as an entrepreneur, not everybody is going to be consuming your stuff in the same way.
Right. Everybody learns differently.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's amazing, and certainly sounds like it feels doable. It feels like okay,
It
actually, because
is doable.
yeah, because that overwhelm, I think, is a big barrier. People think because we see, pro marketers who have huge teams and we see how they're showing up and we think, okay, well, if I'm not doing it like that, then I'm not doing it
Yeah.
right. Right?
Don't compare yourself to them.
So true. I mean, that's generally true for pretty much all things, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But definitely like because the team often is invisible, right? Like those like the big influencers and things, they have got a team, but they're behind the scenes. You don't realize that they've got a
Yeah.
huge number of people who are just facilitating and getting all of this machinery behind the scenes happening. So we think, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And because I can't do that, that means that I can't be there
I'm going to
marketing.
opt out of everything then.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's a shame because then of course you're not actually showing up, you're not being visible, you're not reaching the people that you need to get, the people that really need to hear your message.
Exactly. Exactly. And it really doesn't take a lot of time to be able to show up consistently for your audience and add value for them while still doing your job. If you just set it up, like automate anything that you can, batch all of the creation that you're doing. If you're interviewing that one person, set aside that one day and chop up those videos, put together your social media posts that you're going to use, and schedule it out. And then you only have to worry about it that one day.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I mean, I'd love to kind of like dig into this a little bit more and just kind of unpack how would this look? And if you have any examples of how people have actually managed to execute on this kind of thing on their own, I would love that. But like how are they actually like what is the very first step if if you want to kind of implement this sort of strategy, what are you doing first?
Yeah. So the first thing you need to decide is what is my core content? What can I commit to doing? And how often can I commit to doing it? So for myself, I do all of the marketing for my own business, but I also market for 15 other customers.
Hmm.
So it's a lot of work, but I use the method that I'm talking about today to be able to make it work for me. I commit to an expert interview every 2 weeks. And what I do is I break that interview up into 3 segments. So
Mhm.
they end up being a series. And then, so every other week, a video show will come up. And then those opposite weeks, the podcast episode will come up.
Ah, okay. Carry on,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it all comes from that one interview. So we've got 6 pieces of content right there from that one interview. And then weekly emails, which I just sit down and batch. I write them all at one time, schedule them out so I don't have to think about them. And each one of those pieces of content, so far we're at 6,
Mhm.
you can create at least 3 social media posts from each of those. So that's feeding your channel for all of your channels for a month with that much.
Oh my gosh, that's great. I love that framework. That's super. Okay, so let me just make sure I understand. So you do when you say you do 2 interviews per month, that's you like actually sitting down like this,
Hmm.
basically, right? Like
Yeah,
interviewing
exactly.
somebody, and you record 2 of those interviews a month. But then
Yes.
you take that recording and you break that up into both. You separate out like video and audio podcast, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I do. And each of those interviews is just broken up into 3 learning objectives. So
Hmm.
those videos are broken up into 3 episodes. And then I'll record the intro and outro for each of those. But it's a series of 3.
Right. Oh, cool. Okay. And so then I'm just curious, like when you're planning your interview, like your recording, are you planning ahead of time how you're going to break it up into that series of 3? Or does
Hmm.
that kind of come up after the chat?
No, it usually is before. So we'll come up with 3 learning objectives before we have the conversation. I'll have some general questions. I might go off the cuff on some, but
Right.
I'll have general questions for each of those learning objectives. and then I'll know exactly where to slice them. I'm like, okay, and we're stopping here, and then this is where the next video will come in. So they're aware also that it's being broken up into 3.
Yeah.
But having those learning objectives and this is what I want my audience to learn in this segment in my mind, it helps a lot to
That's
do
brilliant.
beforehand.
Yeah, so it does require a bit more work beforehand with planning and prep
Hmm.
and stuff, but sounds like much less work afterwards in terms of editing because you already know like where you need to slice.
Yes, and you just get a lot more content out of it.
Yeah, tons more content. So out of
Hmm.
each interview, you're getting like 3 videos and 3 podcast episodes. That's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah. So then you've got 6 pieces of content for the month, it sounds like, that you can.
for that one. Yeah, so
Yeah.
6 pieces of content so it's 12 total
Oh,
because
right,
there's
right,
2
right.
interviews a
2
month.
interviews. Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Gotcha.
And then 4 emails that I send out. So I send out one per week,
Mhm.
and I just batch those. So I do them all at one time.
Mm.
And same with social media. When I come up with my social media content, I'll write it all at one time and then schedule it out.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Okay. So you just sit down because there's so much value I find. I mean, I like to do this too when I can, is like that batching because you just get
Hmm.
yourself into the right headspace, right?
Yeah, you're
Um,
in that mind frame. You can get to it.
yeah. And it's much more efficient rather than sort of flip flopping between different tasks and all of that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
and you can sort of put yourself in that mind state when you have in mind, okay, I've blocked off my calendar on this day, and maybe you book a hotel and you go there and you decide to do it there and you make a day of it. You
Mm.
make it an event. So it's a thing you look forward to. And at the end of the day, you have all of your content, and you really only need to publish like that could feed 2 months of content, those 2 interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, I love that. So I'm curious, like, how else do you suggest, like, for yourself, or what's your approach that you take, and of course for the clients who you're helping them with their marketing, like, how do you stay in front of your audience? Like, of course we've been talking about ways to do it, but what else? Like, talk to me about, what can people do to feel like they're staying top of mind, staying present, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, as far as email, making sure that you're doing it consistently.
Mm.
Send that email every week so you're always in front of your audience. And then, as far as social media is concerned, just time block. Decide, hey, for this 30 minutes every single day, I'm going to engage with accounts. I'm just going to comment on other people's accounts and make sure that I am out there and I'm having conversations with people. I'm responding to comments on my content. And just that 30 minutes is enough to be out there, show up for your people, and keep that conversation and the relationship going.
Yeah, I think that that's so important, like to really block out that time because as we all know, social media can be a huge time suck and
Oh,
suddenly
yeah, you can get sucked in there real good.
right, you look up and it's like what happened to my entire afternoon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I what I do is I don't know what you do to keep yourself on track, but I just set a timer for myself. I am like, okay, and when that timer goes off, I am out. I just like exit
Yes.
stage left because I have to get out and get on with other things. But, just to because it is important, like exactly like you said, you got to show up for your people. You have to be present and
Hmm.
engaged, but that doesn't mean spending the entire day being
No.
present and engaged. That's
You do
crazy.
that, you're not working, are you?
Right, exactly. Like you've got a business to run. You're not just, social media
Right.
butterfly. So, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
and if you're bad about that, like you just can't step away from the phone, there are apps that will block them for you. Like
Yeah.
I use this Pomodoro
Mhm.
app that it's like 25 minutes on. So this is like my zone time, 5-minute break. And during those 25 minutes on, it also blocks all of my apps. So I don't get any notifications and I can't go in if I want to.
Perfect. Yes, exactly. If you know that you are just not great at this is a bit of a weak point, then just
Yeah,
outsource the discipline to
to
something
the
else,
app.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, cool. Actually, I want to circle back to because you mentioned email marketing because this is
Mhm.
definitely I know that this is a struggle too for many of the people in my audience is just, we know I hear from many, many people who say, I know that I'm supposed to be, I should be nurturing my list and communicating with them regularly, but I don't really know what to say, or I just sort of can't get around to it. Or those kinds of things. So tell me, what's your take on, how to stay consistent with email marketing? What kinds of things are we emailing our audience? All of that stuff.
Yes. So the content that you're creating in that core content, it's feeding those emails.
Mm-hmm.
It builds out a nurture system, because theoretically any content you're creating should be adding value for your audience. Otherwise, don't create it if
Right.
it's not teaching them something that they care about.
Yeah.
So those should be your email, talking about what you've created, sending that call to action to that piece of content. You could do that every week easily with core content. And if you are doing podcasts or you have a PR mention, throw that in there. It adds a little bit of social proof. Like,
Mm-hmm.
other people trust my opinion. Here's evidence of
Yeah.
this.
It's important, really important.
Yes. But I would say send weekly emails so people get used to it. And also, just the way email works in general, you'll show up not in the spam or the promo sections of their email if you're doing it every week at the same time.
Mm.
Gmail comes accustomed to your email showing up. And they're like, oh, okay, this person's legit. I will send them through.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there specific times that you recommend or have found have been particularly, just optimal times or days or, that kind of thing when people are sending out their
Yeah.
regular weekly emails?
It depends on the industry. I work with some facilities companies, and like 5 a.m. is the hot time because they're working really early.
Mm.
But you need to really A/B test. I
Yeah.
send mine at 6 and I get like a 40 to 50% open rate. So
Nice.
earlier has always done better for me as far as email. And
Mhm.
then when it comes to social, later,
Mhm.
always like after work hours, always does better.
Oh, that's perfect. And during the week, you find it's more, optimal during like Monday to Friday, not Saturday to Sunday, or what have you
I
found in your
don't bother
experience?
on the weekends.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could always test it because maybe your people are different than mine. But no, I do Tuesday. Tuesday and Wednesday are supposed to be the best email times,
Mhm.
just in a general sense. But every audience is different.
Well, that's exactly it, right? Like it really does. And it all comes down to, and in so many things in business, we're always saying, well, really, you've got to know who is your audience and who is your
Right.
ideal client and what do they need and what do they want and where are they showing up and all that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
test it out.
Yeah.
See what works for your people and accommodate them.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Okay. So you recommend weekly emails, if at all,
Hmm.
like if you can get that, and to help you with that, batching it's all at once. So it's just
Yeah.
batched, it's scheduled, you don't even have to think about it. It's just all good to go.
Yeah, you're just writing 4 emails, scheduling them out. So easy. And at the very minimum, monthly.
Yeah, agreed totally. If all you, I mean, weekly is ideal, but if you just simply don't have the bandwidth or you don't have like the muscle yet, right? Like it's just not a
Yeah,
habit yet, you haven't kind of got your system down, then if just commit to doing once a month email and then when that feels like it becomes, easier, right? Like when you get that kind of
exactly.
feeling like, oh, I got this down, I can do this, then scale up and do twice a month and then move
Yes.
up from there, right?
Start at once a month. That is perfectly fine. And people listening right now might be like, Sarah, that's a lot of content. 18 pieces of content in 1 month.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could do one interview a month and spread it out over a quarter. You don't have to be doing it as much as me. It's just setting those systems
Mhm.
and putting them in place, but you can distribute them however you want.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I guess even though like going back to the way that you kind of slice and dice out your content, you're not sending an email to correspond with each of those pieces because I'm assuming you're not like, or are you sending out 12 different emails during the
No,
month?
I
No.
send out 4 emails,
Right.
and that content is distributed over a long period of time.
Mhm.
Like, I did a whole bunch of interviews in February, and they're feeding me through fall.
Nice. That's awesome. That's great. Okay. So good. Right. Okay. So for people who are like, let's just pull back the, back up the bus here for the people who are right at the
Boop,
beginning
boop,
of
boop,
like, exactly, right at the beginning of their marketing journey or their business journey. And they're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start with marketing. I've got like this person saying do this thing and that person saying do that thing. Where do you think is the best place to just start? with marketing your business?
The assets you own is the
Mm,
best place to start. You need to build your home instead of renting it. So a lot of people start on social media because that's where the people are hanging out.
yeah.
But you need to really build your home first. So make sure your website appropriately shows your business and is the face that you really want showing, and build your email list. Those are the top concerns when it comes to marketing. So you might need to, you'll eventually go on social media, obviously, but start with your home and create a lead gen that will generate enough emails that you can start sending emails regularly, because that's a list you own. LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, it could all go down tomorrow.
Mm.
Who knows? But you own that email list.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I love how you said that, to like start with your home, because and I know that so many people, most of the people that I have, like clients and people in my programs, they start by, oh, well, let me just get on social media and I'll just start like posting stuff.
Yeah.
Because it feels like the obvious thing, right? Because you see that's what other people are doing. That's where everybody is hanging out. So it kind of feels like, okay, that's where I need to start. But it really, I agree with you completely, Sarah. It's like that's step two. You need to get your
Yeah.
foundation first of all, because ultimately you want to be driving people back to your, your storefront, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't want to just be like out there on social media talking about you don't even really know what yet, because that's just kind of wasted effort, right? So,
Yeah. And if they go to your website, they're like, okay, this person's cool. I want to work with them. They go there and they're like, what is this? What's happening? What do they
right.
sell? It's immediately a turn off. You
Yeah.
need to have that home like ready to sell for you.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, totally. Okay, so start with your building your home first, not like on rented space, but
Yep.
where
Don't
you
rent,
live.
buy.
Yes, that's awesome. And then from there, like we've been talking about people who are marketing their businesses and they're solopreneurs. They don't have a team. They don't have anybody that they can outsource this stuff to yet. How do you prioritize what marketing tasks to actually work on? And when you're in a busy week, especially if you are kind of short on time, if you've also got a job and you've got kids, all the stuff that demands on your time. So it's really prioritizing is so important. So how do people actually
Yeah.
prioritize what stuff they should be doing?
Well, the person that you just described was me when I started my business. I had a full time job as a marketing director. I was building my business on the side. I have two little kids. That was me.
Right.
But I had to somehow build my personal brand. And the priority that I took was PR. So, getting mentioned in publications, writing guest posts on any publication where my audience might be hanging out, being a guest on webinars and podcasts, that was my priority, because you're borrowing someone else's audience,
Hmm.
bringing them over to you, and that's how you can start building your foundation and your home. You can build your list through those PR opportunities. Have a lead gen that makes sense with each of these PR opportunities that you're doing, and you can build your list.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I like that idea because it can, to me, that's like a not it's like a shortcut, right? Like it sort of can jump
Yeah,
you up in terms of getting in front of a whole lot of people very, very quickly, without you having to do a ton of legwork.
exactly. I got my first 6 clients from PR
Wow,
opportunities, from
awesome.
guest posting in other publications. Guest posting in particular and webinars are genius ways to do it, because you're showing your smarts. You're
Mm.
showing what you know and how you can solve a problem. So people will reach out to you that way. Even still, I've been doing this for a long time, and the PR opportunities that I have drive a lot of it, because I'm getting in front of those audiences and they're saying, okay, Sarah knows what she's doing. I will reach out to her. So PR is the best way to start, and it's easier than you might think. Like, help a reporter out, Harrow
Mm-hmm.
gets you media mentions and backlinks to your website, which help you get up in Google rankings. It also has gotten me podcast opportunities through there too.
Hmm.
And then there are websites where you can find, what podcasts are looking for people to interview. You can reach out to people on LinkedIn and say, hey, do you want to collaborate on a webinar? It's easier than you think. PR sounds big, like it's
Yeah,
too
it
much for
does.
you to handle, but it's really not.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it sounds like fancy, like you need to have like some
Yeah,
kind of like professional who's handling your publicity or
a
your PR.
publicist,
Yeah.
but you don't.
You don't need that. You can absolutely do that on your own. And yeah, I mean, I of course, because we were talking about like creating your content and nurturing your list and all of those kinds of things, that is absolutely necessary. I think that that's what you're saying too, is like you
Hmm.
have to do that stuff. That is your core. That is how you're nurturing
Yeah.
marketing, all of that kind of stuff. But it can be more of a slow burn, right? Like that is more of a, it can take a little more time to
Yeah.
build yourself up in organic search results and like all of that kind of stuff for your
It
content.
all takes time, but eventually it moves to a point where you are getting 100% of your incoming leads organically. Like,
Mm.
I don't do any outreach at all. It all comes through what I've been talking about, these things.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then that becomes even, then you're into like, then things can really snowball because you're not having to spend a lot of your like time and effort
Yeah,
in all that outreach stuff that you had to do at the beginning. Because now
right,
it's
exactly.
coming to you, which frees you up to, keep on growing and just like continue to climb the ladder. So it sounds like in the beginning, yes, there's going to be some legwork. You're just going to have to roll up your sleeves and get out there and pitch yourself and try and get on podcasts and try and be a guest
Yeah.
authority, do some guest posting, like so that you can do what you can to get yourself in front of as many of your ideal clients as
Hmm.
possible, like right out of the gates, and then keep on growing from there.
Yeah, exactly. Start with borrowing other people's audiences. Make sure you have lead gens in place that you can use so you can uh, pull them over completely. So you actually have them on your list,
Yeah.
and then you can start reaching out to them directly and then go into your core content. So you're building your home, your SEO that way. It all works really well together. But it is a slow burn. It takes a minute, but it really works. And then you don't have to do any outbound sales, which feels icky, at least to me.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend a lot of time on creation because you have a system in place.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm all about that. Like systematizing where you can. And
Love it.
yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And then you get to the point where you actually do have some resources where you can actually outsource and hire some people to
Yeah, that makes
help
it a
you
lot
maintain.
easier.
Yes, exactly. But you got to get there first. With the PR piece, like with that, publicity, do you find, either for yourself or for your clients, like is there any particular avenue, especially for somebody who's new and doesn't feel like, because I know that I can hear people like with this concern right now. Like I can just hear their thoughts right now is thinking, well, how can I be like a guest if I or an expert authority or whatever if I am brand new? Like who's going to listen to me yet, and how can I do that at the beginning? Shouldn't I
Yeah.
build up some authority first and then reach out to publications or whatever? Can you tell me about that?
Yes. So they don't feel like they are an authority, and that's the problem. Start with guest posts
Mm,
because you're proving you're an authority through that. You're educating. And then as you start to do that, more people will feel comfortable bringing you in. Like with guest posts, they're like, okay, free content. If it's
yeah.
valuable, they're like, yes, thank you. Thank you. Keep coming. But then you have that as a reference. Like, see, this publication trusted me. This is the value I added. And then you can use that to snowball into webinars, which get you a lot of leads at one time. That's a
Hmm.
real list builder,
Mm.
and especially with partnerships. And Harrow is another easy way to start because they're looking for just really smart quotes to add to articles, and you can do that as a beginner just as well as someone who has been doing it for years.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, and in part, this is also a mindset thing too, right? Is that like really knowing that you have got something of value to share with
Mhm.
the marketplace and really owning that. You don't have the years of experience, but you certainly have a lot that you can share. Even if you have one small thing that you can help somebody out with, that's valuable. And you want to get it out there. But what I hear you saying, Sarah, is that really guest posting pretty low is the lower barrier one, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not
The
taking a huge,
publications are they're excited to get free
yeah,
content
want
because
content.
they need to fill their web pages.
Yes.
So it's the lowest barrier one. Tarot is slightly harder
Okay.
because they're a little pickier
Yeah.
on who to take quotes from, but start trying that right away. And then partnerships with the
Mm,
webinars, podcasts, those you have to have built a little bit of authority through those two other means first before
yeah.
they'll start taking you seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the the direction I would go with it.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I like that, like that journey kind of thing. It's very easy to do, and like easy way to start out and just and get your name out there, and then it builds, right? So yes, everybody and literally everyone has to start from the beginning anyway,
Yeah,
right?
we all started from the beginning. No one came out of the womb a genius at something.
Right, with all sorts of established authority and credibility and all
Yes.
that kind of stuff. We all
Here's
have
my
to
media
earn.
kit, 1 day old.
Yes, exactly. Actually, do you have any tips on putting together like a really simple media kit for yourself? Like you have to do this yourself, of course. Like what would you do you have any suggestions on that?
Anywhere you've been mentioned, make
Hmm.
sure to put that in there. If you have any quotes from customers or people that you've collaborated with on podcasts, live streams, whatever, put that in there. Your follower count, email count, that all matters.
Hmm.
And what value you can bring to the table. Come up with a content differentiator. What makes you different than everybody else? What can you teach that other people can't? And I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, really focusing on what makes you unique, I think, to help you stand out, of course, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's easier than you might think because you're like, "Oh, I'm a wellness coach like everybody else." But you are you.
Right.
You are somebody else. You aren't like everybody else. And even if it's just your personality or how you approach coaching,
Mhm.
something is different about you.
Yes, always. Your story, your experiences, the journey that you've been on, your particular philosophies, like all of that stuff is unique. I hear that a lot. A lot of people feel like there's nothing unique about them, but that is not true. I've never once had a situation where I thought, yeah, this person's kind of the same as everybody else.
This
Like it's
person is
just
exactly like everyone else. No, it's
no.
not possible.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this has just been so fantastic having you on the show, Sarah. I just have really that you've shared so many useful tidbits. I can imagine that people have been like scribbling notes to themselves of like what they need to do next, and it's just been awesome. So, but tell us where can people go to connect with you, and learn more about your work and all of those things.
Yeah, so you can find me pretty much everywhere at Sarah Noel Block. That's my name. It's my website. It's what I am on social media. And then I have a YouTube show and a podcast called Tiny Marketing Show. So you can find me on YouTube or any podcast network.
Perfect. I will put all of those into the show notes and just make sure we link all of that stuff up. It's just
Perfect.
so awesome. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. It's just been great.
Thank you. It was fun being on here.
Okay, well, I hope that you got a ton of value out of that conversation. And I really hope that we helped to clear up that overwhelm about where to start and what to prioritize as you begin to market your business. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. In particular, I'd be interested to know your thoughts on Sarah's core content strategy. And if that is something that you would like to try, go ahead and let me know in the comments below this video. Or if you're listening to the audio of this episode, then find me on Instagram and let me know. Okay, that is what I've got for you today. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you again very soon.